Good evening, everybody. Welcome to We All Be News, Radio, and TV. I'm your host for the Empowerment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2C2H2 Artemis. I'm always having a late start, but you know how it goes. That's just my style. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Actually, I was trying to try something different, but I couldn't experiment the way I wanted to. It happens like that sometimes. But I didn't want to keep you all waiting too long. I want to thank everybody out there who can hear the sound of my voice. I hope I'm coming in loud and clear. I know we had some hiccups last segment. I guess you can hear me loud and clear. What's up, brother Danny Jones? Henry Duran, what's up, my brother? Sister Tanya, hello, brother Ron. All right, we got you in the family. It's all love. It's all family. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Okay, I hope I can hear that. Brother James Simmons, we got a lot to talk about today. I definitely want to go live. I want to thank everybody out there for supporting my little experiment with the podcast. Uh, get a lot of great feedback. Some people got a phone call from a sister who listened for the first time the other day from North Kakalaka, North Carolina to be exact. And that was her first time listening. Although we had some technical difficulties, she was very impressed with the show. And hopefully she'll be coming back again as a return visitor to the We All Be Dudes Radio and TV network. So your network makes your net worth grow. So I want to thank you all for being consistent. It's amazing. I've been running into people's parents, and people have been telling me, well, my son from Atlanta, he told me to listen to you. He said, you if you in Memphis, mom, listen to Brother Ron. He's the one. Brother Ron is the one. I'm not the one. I'm one of many. We all have the light. It is our duty to not come here and to conform to the world, but to change the world by any means necessary. And there's a lot of things to talk about. Thank you, Vibe High 32, loud and clear. Thank you. I'm grateful for your time and energy because I'm always excited to be on here now. I was hesitant at first to do these things, but because of the enthusiasm of the brothers and sisters out there, they're thirsty for knowledge, they're hungry for information. And I was thinking about what Baba Dick Gregory told me 2 years ago almost. I must feed the people. It is my job to water the plants, to feed the people. And now I understand what he was saying, since the master has been removed, but he's always present. As you all know or may not know, there's going to be a big celebration for Baba Dick Gregory in Prince George's County at a mansion, and it's free and open to the public. A whole week filled of celebrating the living legacy of Baba Dick Gregory. And thank you so much, Sister Tanya J. In the words of the immortal Duke Ellington, we love you madly. I want to thank everybody for donating and supporting the platform. Thank you so much, because we all be in it to win it. It's about us. It is time for unity in our community. You cannot spell community without unity. And now it's the time for us to step up and take our rightful places. Now, I told people on my Facebook page that you look at Bill Parcells. I was looking at the ESPN special the other night, Bill and Bill, Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick. They got a documentary. And the ESPN, for one thing they got right, is those great 30 for 30 documentaries they've been doing for the last several years. Highly informative. It's bigger than sports. It's about life, y'all. So, like, Bill Parcells actually was a mentor to Bill Belichick. And in this case, the student has surpassed the teacher. But there's a great relationship story to that. And I was saying, Bill Parcells has produced 3 Hall of Fame worthy Super Bowl winning coaches. One, of course, the a bit above everybody else is Bill Belichick. Of course, he won 5 Super Bowls out of 8 tries, which is not bad. But 2 of those Super Bowl losses came to Tom Coughlin, who also is a protege of Bill Parcells. He won those 2 with the Giants, the New York Giants. Cost Bill Belichick that perfect season. Had they won that last game, it all came down to that crazy catch by Omar Tyree, I believe, by his helmet. And in this day and age of catching rules in the NFL, they probably would call that a no catch if they waited 10 years later. But the other one, of course, was Sean Payton, who was his assistant down in Dallas when Bill Parcells was down in the Big D with Jerry Jones and company. Sean Payton won that with the New Orleans Saints. So my question is, what has black leadership produced in the past 30 years that is close to the coaching tree that Bill Parcells has produced? In other words, who are the people that these so-called leaders who run their mouths, who talk loud and say nothing, what have they produced in the last 30 years that come close to a dynasty, to a real coaching tree? And thank you, Sister Athena Hensley Cobb, or Dirty Sundays. You said you would donate support if I wasn't poor because you are a gift to the historian community. That really made my day. That enriched my night. But the thing about it is, by you even being here and listening to me and tolerating me for almost 2 hours, that is love. That's support. It's more than one way to show support, people. You could, if I'm doing something that is beneficial to you and you think other people could benefit from it, please feel free to share this podcast with the people. Tell them about the good news you've been hearing on We All Be. When I say good news, I'm not talking about fake news or feel good news. I'm talking about news you can use, that you can utilize. Thank you, Sister Manteca Lacara. I hope I said it right. Bless you for donating, because this is important. People, we must pay for what we want. Just like people stand in line for hours on end to get iPods and iPads and Jordans, you demand what you want. Just for example, this movie coming out this weekend with the Black Panther. Hit like. Thank you so much. Like this 1,000 times at least. I would love to get 1,000 likes on some of the things I've been doing. Yes, Danny Jones, this is reality news. And the problem with us as black people, I'm not going to say y'all black people or those black people or those people, we in it together. This is We All Be. The problem with us is that we cannot deal with the reality of our situation. We rather self-medicate on fantasy instead of dealing with the reality of our situation. This Black Panther thing is a juggernaut. This thing is going to break records this weekend based on the dollar, the buying power, the consumer power, the unity, the solidarity of black folks. But yeah, a lot of times we won't get the credit for what we do. It's like with Obama. They always say, well, y'all only 13% of the population. Black people are the universal people. Never forget who you are. When we come together, nobody can stop us. But the problem is, what we've been having is self-confidence. We don't believe in ourselves enough to come together for things that will benefit us as a community, that will actually benefit black people as a priority. You cannot name one politician. Name me one politician who stood for 8 hours in Congress to talk on behalf of black Americans for reparations and other things with black Americans, not for minorities, not for white women, not for dreamers and DACA. Name one politician in Congress that you voted for. Name one person for your favorite party of choice, the Democrats, who would stand up for you in Congress and advocate for your rights as a citizen to be protected by the Constitution and your rights about the honor your ancestors with the blood, sweat, and tears of the reparations that are owed to the descendants of from those people. I'm not gonna get on this train and act like slavery never existed. No, I'm not doing that BS. I know, well, we was already over here. I'm gonna tell y'all something. I don't know what's hard for people to understand. Yes, we was over here. There was black people over here. Black people are everywhere. That does not mean slavery did not happen. Okay? Somebody built this motherfucker. It was slaves, I believe, in the War of 1812 that burnt the fucking White House down that they built. What was Francis Scott Key talking about in the national anthem about the slave? Who we think he was talking about? Look, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I always come back. It's like a song to me. You stake the hook and you come back, but you go on a little adventure. Like I said, the title is Midnight Black History Badness. Does anybody heart BP? Not the gas company, but black people. Who really loves black people? Anybody got love for black folks? Not just tolerance for black people, not just a like for black folks, but do you have a sincere love? And do we have love of self? Do we actually have a real love of self when we are running and breaking our necks to do costume parties and crap for a invention of the white man? The so-called Black Panther was invented by white men, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Why do black people embrace these symbols if they're not made by us and for us? We like the watered down version of us. It was crazy. That's insane. We the real deal. But getting back, name me a politician that you could think of today that will actually stand for 8 hours in Congress and talk about black folks' rights. And when I'm talking about black Americans, not black Americans, descendant of slaves. Name me one politician you think would do that. Who you gonna vote for in 2020 and nobody stands for you? Barack Obama does not speak for black Americans. Michelle Obama, she did her best. She said that speech like I'm talking about. She said, I live in a house built by slaves. That same week she said that speech, I was in New York City in Manhattan at the African slave burial ground, right next to the federal building, downtown New York, not that far from Wall Street. And what y'all got to understand is that Central Park used to be the home of black folks. They used to call it the Village back in the day. They evicted black folks out of Central Park and made it Central Park, but back in the day was known as the Village. One of the first things traded on Wall Street were black folks. Insurance companies were made wealthy by the exploitation of black folks. Ivy League schools were made wealthy by the exploitation of black folks. A lot of your old financial houses on Wall Street got a long track record, a long track history in slavery. So yeah, slavery happened because this country could not exist and become the wealthiest nation in the history of the world without free labor. And people talking about capitalism. Don't you know they phasing us out right now? Don't you know they phasing us out right now? I was at a restaurant last night or earlier tonight, and I was thinking about the people that's working in a restaurant. They're teenagers, a fast food restaurant. But don't you know this automation is coming? That those jobs that those young kids have now won't be available in a few years. So what are they going to do with the people? There's a lot of people out of work. It's not because they lazy or not ambitious, because there's no place for them in this system. You cannot find a job. Look at Donald Trump. Name me one person in his family. Name me one of his kids that had to find a job. Name me one of his kids had to leave the house at 18 and be on their own by themselves with no support system. This is what black folks do to their kids. We the only group, because we don't know no better. We the only group that leaves our people out there naked and to the wolves. Every group that wins in this system has a support network. Ain't no foreigner coming over here legally and don't have a support network. There's no foreigner coming over here illegally. It doesn't have a support network. But we've been here for generations, and we still don't have a strong support network. I remember talking to a sister. I remember talking to a sister this past weekend. I ain't gonna never forget this. Her family hosted a foreign student from Saudi Arabia. She lived out in Eastern Tennessee. Somehow the young man left the family for a whole weekend and didn't tell anybody from her family where he went. Come to find out, he went to Nashville to get a new car from a Saudi Arabia organization that was created to support people from Saudi Arabia in order to make it in America. This man was able to get a new car, could have got him a luxury apartment, and he's not even a citizen in his country. We got Ray Ray and Pookie coming out of prison on being in the neighborhood all their lives. They can't even get a bank loan. We got Junior coming home from fighting Uncle Sam wars and can't even protect his grandmama house from getting eminent domain by the government. Let alone he's got to work for the guys he was blowing up at overseas. They were enemies. When he come home, they become his bosses. This is bullshit. They're telling everybody to come over here, and yet they're not creating jobs for people already here. So why are you telling people, why are you inviting folks to all come over here when there's not even enough stuff for people over here who've been here forever? So what they tell you, they automating stuff, they phasing out, the economy has changed. Like y'all keep on having dreams of Dr. King in the 1960s and whatnot, and dress up in your Black Panther costume parties. But 50 years ago, the economy was booming. There was enough for everybody to go around. You could drop out of high school and still get paid and work a job for 30, 40 years and support a family of 4 and send all your kids to college. Those days are gone. And what's the point of going to college when the student loan is like an albatross around your neck? I'm not going to never forget when I talked to Fred Hampton's lawyer friend who started the People's Law Office in Chicago. Was a Jewish guy from Atlanta, came from a well-to-do family. He was Jewish. But he was a lawyer. He was a friend of Fred Hampton Sr. And when he got killed, he took up the civil lawsuit against the government or the city or the state of Illinois, the city of Chicago, and won that. It took him 12 years to win it. But the families of Mark Clark and Fred Hampton Sr. were paid close to $2 million back in 1982. So he did a book about Fred Hampton and his time with the People Law Office doing civil rights work, and that's available on We All Be TV, either We All Be TV, the second channel, or I'll make sure y'all know I make it available on the first channel. But what he told me was powerful. He said the reason, Ron, why we were able to do so much social justice work in the 60s is because when we was coming out of law school, we had no debt. We had little debt or zero debt. We didn't have a lot of debt. So fast forward to 2018, you got folks graduating from college, they got to get a job that's below what they need to make in order to make a living, in order to pay off some things they may never pay off in their lifetime. You understand what I'm saying? So they got people handcuffed to this system that basically kills the life and the spirit of the people. It kills people before they even get started. So you don't even have a chance. A lot of times, the baby boomers had it good, man. You know what I'm saying? They tell me why the millennials can't do this. Hell, y'all had it good. The baby boomers had it good to get a job. From the action kind of work. You know what I'm saying? Work good enough to get you a job, good paying job, go to college, almost debt free. But yeah, you expect us to measure up to what you have achieved when that is no longer the reality. We have more obstacles now than they did 50 years ago. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but we have more obstacles now. You got children that can't even read and write when they graduated out of high school in America, competing in a global market where kids at the age of 2 or 3 are learning how to speak several different languages all around the world. And Black children are being left behind. You got senile, crazy Black folks who call themselves leaders saying loud things and signifying and doing nothing. I ain't gonna name no names, but ask me, what have these people produced in the last 50 years that come close to real leadership? They come close to a Dr. King. Don't you understand that Dr. King, when he was in his last days, was shunned by his so-called friends and supporters? Many of them turned their backs on Dr. King, thought he was crazy for demanding that the government make sure that everybody has a living wage, decent access to education, a safe place to live in. But like what happened on Wednesday, the new St. Valentine's Day massacre, what happened on Wednesday in Florida makes Al Capone look like Gundy. You understand? But Dr. King knew 50 years ago what America was about. He said, the greatest purveyor of violence on the planet is my own government. To paraphrase Dr. King more than 50 years ago, he said, the greatest purveyor of violence on the planet is my own government. You talking about that shooting thing? That's supposed to have been what happened in Florida. They said that was the safest school in I mean, not safest school, but the safest city in America. The safest city in America, huh? Let's see what good old honest Abe Lincoln had to say about America. He said the following about America. I'm reading what honest Abe, as honest as a white man could be, especially a politician. He said America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves. That's good old Abraham Lincoln And Dr. King, they shot him too and killed him in public because he also wanted to control the currency. But yet the banksters said, hell no. The Rothschilds agents say it's bigger than just slavery. It's a lot of things because even back then, the economy was changing. The South wanted to stick to the old planting ways, and the North was about the industrial age. But they all were partners in it together. The South picked the cotton while New York exported the cotton to England. See, don't get it twisted. There's no such thing that the Confederates were bad and the Union was the good guys. The Union did their dirt too. You know, I recently talked about how my organization helped get a historic marker approved for the victims of the Fort Pillow massacres. This is where you had 300 Black Union soldiers and women and children killed by the Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest, who became the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. But you had the Devil's Punch Bowl down in Natchez, Mississippi, where the Union basically put Black women, children, and men in a hole to die among themselves. You had thousands of Black women, children, and men being allowed to die by the Union Army. It just put them in a big old, basically a ditch. I think upwards of 20,000 people. But Google Devil's Punch Bowl, and the place where them ancestors lost their lives is a large number of peach orchards. And when I make my way down to Natchez, I'm gonna try to get one of those peaches and eat it because that's our ancestors. And you know, it's something, man. Because white folks, you know, the elites are into a lot of stuff. They're into a lot of stuff. I talked about Aleister Crowley and sex magic when I was talking about Quincy Jones. But we're gonna talk a little bit about, does anybody love Black people? And this is the Black History edition. Of course, this is Black History Month. And I got some things I want to share with you all in the spirit of Quincy Jones in the art of tea spilling. I got some things I want to share. So, like I said, family, I want to thank everybody who has been consistent in supporting what we are doing over in We All Be. We're more than just a podcast. I am more than just an online personality. I'm in these streets, or y'all call them streets. I call them streets. I'm in the streets, man. I'm out here with the people. We're doing community building, not just in Memphis, but around the country. So I want to thank you all for giving me that chance to do it. But also remember, I'm your mailman. I'm not your leader. I'm just a mailman. We all just mailmen and mail women. We all got a message to give to the world. So don't make it about you. It's bigger than that. That's why I call this We All Be. But we got to all be in it to win it. We all be in it to win it. I just want to read some things for you all about Black love, the dysfunctionality of Black love in the white supremacist system. I call it white inferiority system. This is Black history. Now, what you got to do, like I said before, just don't take my word for it. Take a look. It's all online or in a book, like LeVar Burton would say on Reading Rainbow. Don't take his word for it. So I want to read some things I found out. They may or may not be true. But like somebody said, there's truth even in a lie, because if it was no truth in a lie, it could not exist. So think about that. But also think about what Quincy Jones did recently in his interviews about exposing people. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. I want y'all to understand something really well. They will not let you have power in this system unless they know you about your skeletons in the closet. They'll create skeletons in the closet so they can have something on you if you act out of line. That's how you get power in this system. Think about Godfather 2, right? That scene when the senator in Nevada didn't want to go along with the Corleones, and all of a sudden he wake up in that whole house next to a dead hooker. And what they really did, they drugged him and they killed that girl and put her in the bed with him in order for him to get in the bed with the mob. You understand what I'm saying? Go back to Godfather 2 and check that out. When a U.S. senator from Nevada, they want to play ball with Michael Corleone, and the next thing you know, the consigliere, played by the lawyer, the Irish lawyer, played by, forgot that man's name. He plays in so many movies, and also he's a relative of Robert E. Lee. I forgot his name, but he plays the Irish consigliere for the Corleone family. They set the lawyer up. He wakes up in a panic, and then he got to cut a deal with the Corleones. So he got in bed with them because they put him in bed with their dead prostitute. But anyway, that's how it works, man. This is a dirty game. It's a cold game. Like Yo Gotti says, a cold game, baby. It's a cold game. And I told y'all earlier about Bobby Womack. I'm gonna read these things I found out about some. I call it Black History X Files or something. Black History Triple X edition. How about that? But I'm gonna read you about Bobby Womack because Bobby Womack had an interesting life. They said Sam Cooke was Bobby Womack's mentor. 3 months after Sam's death, Bobby married Sam's widow. Bobby showed up to Sam's funeral in Sam's clothes, driving Sam's car. Sam's brothers assaulting him. Bobby and his wife divorced because he had an affair with her 18-year-old daughter, which is also Sam Cooke's daughter. And Bobby talks about this. You just got to do some research, not that much. I think he wrote about it in his autobiography where he was 21 when he married Sam Cooke's wife, who was in her 30s. And they went back home to Chicago, and Barbara had, Sam's former wife and Bobby's wife at that time. She had a gun that was loaded and she put it on the pillow on the bed. But I believe Bobby Womack, he unloaded the gun. And so when L.C. Cooke, one of Sam Cooke brothers, came with the other family people, they beat Bobby Womack's ass because Bobby was trying to use the gun, but it wouldn't fire. So they just whooped the shit out of Bobby Womack. They actually bust up his mouth real bad. I think some of his teeth was knocking to his gums and lips and stuff. They beat the hell out of Bobby Womack because Sam was like a big brother for Bobby. He helped develop Bobby Womack and his brothers, the Valentinos. And Bobby Womack played guitar for Sam on some of his recordings. And he's a very talented brother, but that Womack's went through a lot of stuff because Bobby's brother Cecil actually married Linda, the daughter that he slept with. So Cecil married Linda. They had a bunch of kids and moved to Africa, started a family singing group. But that's interesting. So I'm gonna find some more Black History Triple X. Pam Grier, Foxy Brown. I heard this before, and I believe Pam Grier talked about this in her autobiography. Pam Grier didn't know that her boyfriend at the time, Richard Pryor, was putting cocaine in her vagina. She didn't find it until her doctor told her she had a buildup of cocaine residue around the cervix and in the vagina. Pam could never have children due to this. That's crazy because Pam and Richard Pryor were actually engaged. They did that movie Grease Lightning about that pioneer black NASCAR driver from Virginia who was a moonshiner and bootlegger. I believe they were engaged around that time. And I believe that Richard Pryor stood up at the altar. He didn't show up for the altar. But Richard Pryor, man, I'm going to tell y'all something. People kind of hard on Richard, man. Richard is like what Tupac said, that rose that grew out of concrete. Because if you look at his childhood, what he had to go through, like his grandma was a madam or a pimp. Mama was a prostitute, grew up in a house of prostitution, was molested early. When he went through a lot of trauma. And for him to even survive all that, to make his contribution, because Richard Pryor was a gifted storyteller, phenomenal comedian, but also he could sing. He could sing. Check out Richard Pryor on YouTube. He could actually sing. Richard Pryor was a gift, man. It's unfortunate, but also that Pam Grier story, it makes you wonder about a lot of other people in Hollywood. Hollywood, not Hollywood, that can't have children. Think about all these stars, these beautiful women that are very accomplished, but they seem to have trouble having children. Who else been putting cocaine in their vagina or having all these abortions? But just interesting stuff, man. And like what's helping me understand and realize is that you should never put anybody on a pedestal, because everybody did some dirt. But especially those people in those type of industries, like in entertainment and politics, they did some real dirt. Because like I told y'all earlier, you cannot have so-called power without some dirt on you. They won't let you have power without you getting a little bit dirty. So trust me, they got shit on Barack Obama that if he ever step out of line, they'll release. Just like with Bill Clinton, just like with all of them. One of the main accusers of Bill Clinton in Congress was a pedophile, the guy from Illinois. And he was good friends. He close friends with Hillary Clinton's former campaign manager. All that piece of gay stuff. You know, this shit is real. I mean, the thing about it is they call it fake news because it's not really fake news. Like I said before, there is truth in a lie. But what people got to do in this time period is develop that third eye, your God eye, to put those magic glasses on. Once you have those magic glasses on, you can't take them off. Just like what happened in Florida. I know I'm jumping. That could be a false flag, and people get it twisted. So when people say false flag now, they believe nobody ever died. Like, you know, they didn't die. So how is it a false flag? People die. People can die doing a false flag. People have died on lies before. People have died on wars that were fought on lies. It's like they said in The Wire with Slim Trial, when Slim Charles said it's a lie, and what Boxdale or whoever told, please somebody, if it's not Boxdale that told Slim Charles that we fight on a lie. I know there's some Wire fans out there. Please tell me who told Slim Charles we'll fight on a lie. Okay. So this is what they do. They fight on a lie, or they'll use you to fight on a lie to make a profit. Real blood sacrificing. So we ain't getting out this system clean. Even you Christian goodwill folks, we are all dirty because we pay taxes to a filthy, wicked system. We pay taxes to the same system that are still poisoning the good people of Flint, Michigan. How can we justify going to church every Sunday and tithing and paying taxes to a system that are still poisoning the good folks of Michigan, of Flint, Michigan? And God knows what else they've been doing to folks around the country. Don't you know you have generations of sick kids with asthma in Richmond, California because of Chevron's oil refineries? Environmental racism and pollution has caused generations of kids in Richmond, California to have asthma. And a lot of y'all think asthma is hereditary. No, they are killed. This is a killing machine. This system is wicked. It's a wicked system. It's a cold game, like Yo Gotti sang. Cold game, like Yo Gotti sang. Yeah. So I think Richard Pryor said he was putting on his penis to make his dick harder or something like that, or make the sex better. So, but she participated and she paid the price. It made her barren. So, but it make you think about the other starlets. They have a hard time having children in Hollywood. I want to read this. Man, thank y'all for listening. I'm gonna get back to the chat room and read some of y'all comments, suggestions, and questions. They said the following. Like you said, you could just try to check it for yourself. I know a lot of people, we are programmed to like train wrecks, like flies to shit. I mean, it's like our thing. We like dirt. We like people's to learn about people's private moments. Sometimes very embarrassing moments. Very what might be weird to you might be normal to them. I mean, Richard Pryor grew up in a whorehouse. His grandma was a madam who went to church every Sunday. So that may not be normal to you. So some of the stuff that y'all might consider wild was normal to Richard Pryor. But anyway, Harry Belafonte once told Eartha Kitt, allegedly after sex, I don't want you to take me seriously because no black woman can do anything for me. Eartha said she could not help him to progress into where he was going to go. A black woman would hold a black man back. Wow. Now, you know, Harry Belafonte was married to a black woman at first, like I believe Sidney Poitier, but his second wife was white. And, you know, Harry Belafonte, I know he's held in high esteem by a lot of us. You know, what they say, he work black but sleep white or something like that. But I mean, like I said, when you start delving into people's personal lives, most of the times you're gonna be disappointed by what you find. So I suggest to people, stop putting people on pedestals. Yes, he's a very talented brother. Respect his talent. Yes, he has contributed to enhancing black folks' position in society. Sometimes you just gotta leave it at that. Don't go too deep, because once you start getting to this type of stuff, because it's like he says, she said stuff. This stuff is irrelevant to the work he's done on behalf of humanity. I believe that. Why do we focus on stuff like that? But I'm going to read it anyway because Quincy Jones created the environment for this information to be floating around, and it's floating around. And Quincy Jones, from my understanding, didn't say this. So I'm not saying he said this. So Aretha Franklin, the queen of soul. Aretha Franklin was actually born in Memphis, Tennessee. I know Detroit love her, but she was born in Memphis, Tennessee, in Soulsville, where Stax is located. There's a lot of great history in that neighborhood. Johnny Ace family home is still there. Johnny Ace is arguably the first rock and roll star in history, a black man. He died right before Elvis became famous under questionable circumstances, and his family home still exists there. You have the family home of the great Memphis Slim, the great and legendary blues piano player from Memphis who went over to Europe and became a legend and a star. He actually died in France, and his home is still there, not that far from Stax. And also Soulsville in South Memphis, where they shot the first all black Hollywood production, a movie production known as Hallelujah. That was shot in the late 20s in South Memphis. A lot of it was in that neighborhood near Lamar Owen College. That's the school where Marion Barry went to. That's the college where he went to, Soulsville. So that movie also introduced the first Hollywood black female sex symbol, Nina Mae McKinney. Look her up. She's from South Carolina. I think Chadwick Boseman, who plays the lead in Panther, he's from South Carolina. You know, in Charleston, South Carolina, is where at least 40% of the black folks that came into America, they came into Charleston Harbor. And that's another story altogether. But I just want to read what they said about Aretha Franklin. It said Aretha Franklin has her first child at age 12. Her father, C.L. Franklin, he was known as the $1 Million Voice. He was a very popular minister. Her father was a promiscuous pastor that had gay sex orgies inside the church. There were false rumors that her father was the father of both of her children due to the records being sealed. So I don't know what's true or not. You know what I'm saying? I remember I saw Donnie McKirkland some years ago in Memphis, and I read his book because a lot of people know Donnie McKirkland blamed himself for the death of his brother. I believe his brother got hit by a car, his little brother, and he was young himself, and he felt bad about it. And I believe in his book, he was talking, and also in his lecture, he talked about how it was some prominent leaders in the church who took advantage of him. That he found out that there was a secret sex society within the church. That he was surprised at who was involved in that, secret society. We all talk about boule stuff, like thank the Baba Steve Coakley, the ancestor, for paying the price for exposing that information. Because make no mistake about it, he paid the price, ladies and gentlemen, scholars and laymen, because there's not too many Steve Coakleys. There's not too many people that's going to follow that route that Steve Coakley took. I remember I talked to Baba Gregory, and he even said, because people say Baba Gregory, he's out there, but Baba Gregory is a different animal. He's like a chameleon. He's like a shapeshifter, as he said. But Steve Coakley was speaking so much truth that they would not put him on black radio. That's how much truth he was speaking. I even remember talking to Joe Madison at the Baba Gregory's funeral, and even the Black Eagle. He said, "Man, I couldn't put Dick on all the times he was talking that stuff," but he also said that a lot of that stuff eventually became true. It was considered fact years later, But even him, a guy who's well respected in the black community, a black media pioneer, he could not have Dick Gregory on all the time saying stuff that sounds so outrageous. But here in we believe in free speech and freedom of self-expression. So it's not about me trying to tell somebody how to respond or act. It's rather that I like to use this platform to allow people's voices to be amplified who normally don't have access to the quote unquote mainstream. And we do have a decent following that we all be, and I am very humbled by it. And I'm glad that people are getting stuff out of it. But Steve Coakley paid a price. for the information. So there ain't gonna be too many people that pay that price. And then this is something non-sexual but unfortunate. When Curtis Mayfield was plugging in his guitar, a gust of wind toppled a light tower near the stage, striking him in the head. The accident caused 3 broken vertebrae and paralysis from the neck down. He suffered from severe pain and couldn't make music anymore. I'm actually a blood relative. I am a descendant. I am a descendant of Curtis Mayfield. But anyway, I'll talk about that later. I am related to Curtis Mayfield. I'm serious. Okay, Tammy Terrell. I heard some things about this. I don't know what y'all think about it, but Tammy Terrell, ain't no mountain high enough. All that stuff. Those classic duets for Marvin Gaye and all that stuff. Tammy Terrell was physically abused by James Brown and David Ruffin so badly that they both were accused of being the reason she developed a brain tumor. Fascinating. Fascinating. I really enjoyed that movie, James Brown, that starred, of course, the king of biopics, Chadwick Boseman. I think he did a decent job portraying James Brown. And it alluded to the fact that James Brown could have been a little bit abusive towards women in that scene where he slapped the shit out of Jill Scott or something. Something that was classic. But anyway, Trouble Genius. David Ruffin is actually from Meridian, Mississippi. I knew a sister who knew him well. He was in a singing group with his sister's brother in high school. And this sister used to live next door to James Chaney, one of the 3 civil rights workers who got killed by the Klan during Freedom Summer, Mississippi burning case. Her brother used to cut James Chaney hair. And he used to also cut Mickey Swerner, the Jewish guy, goatee. And Andrew Goodman was just down there. And she supposed to went with them that day when they went to check out the burning of the church, but she was told to stay home. That was Father's Day, 1964. But I had on the show Sister Bernice Sims, very interesting sister. She wrote a book about what happened to the 3 civil rights workers, the martyrs, recently in the last several years. I might have her on the show in the near future again to talk about her experiences once more in her book. But I heard this about Tammy Terrell before. And if y'all like that type of stuff, you should look into it. But regardless of what you find out, it won't bring her back unless they make a hologram of Tammy Terrell and Marvin Gaye. That'd be fascinating. Because the Tupac is fascinating. It makes me wonder about who Tupac really was. Because how I remember when the CIA joked about they don't know where Tupac is located on Twitter, and they use Tupac as a hologram, and all this stuff is coming out. These TV shows and movies about what happened to Tupac, or they speculate. Then this woman, Ayanna Jackson, she claimed that Tupac raped her, although there was no, but they examined her body, no trauma to the anal or vaginal area. And he went to jail not for rape, but for improper touching of the buttocks. And she gave him head on the dance floor in a public place. And yet she said that Tupac raped her. Then there's this picture that pops up on social media showing her smiling with a Tupac mural behind her. And I don't really know too many people that want to be around. Like she got some type of weird Sally Hemings complex. I don't know. Because Tupac didn't rape her. He just went to jail for some other stuff. And all that stuff was suspect. But the thing about it was, why is she in that picture with Tupac mural in the background? What was that about? And then that Vlad interview, which I'm gonna give him props for getting that interview, because so much misinformation and disinformation out there, because you got people posting all types of pictures. It's like Tupac took pictures with everybody. I mean, Tupac would have been the Instagram king. I can't believe that's the volume of pictures that Tupac was able to take with the streets, man, like street dudes. It's amazing. Like he's Jesus with his disciples in Queens. Everybody took pictures. And like everybody, it was no camera phones back then. You had disposable cameras, but why everybody's in the picture with Tupac? It's amazing. But anyway, who was Tupac? It's like, who was Michael King? I mean, Dr. King, Martin Luther King. I'm keep on saying Michael King because some of his acquaintances, look at the interviews when they interviewed Dr. King's inner circle. Some of them just call him Michael. You say, who? Michael Jackson? No, MLK. They'll call him Michael. So did he get his name changed? He was still Michael. You know, this is just like a mystery on top of mysteries. I know the story. They said that he changed his name was changed to Martin because his father changed his name to Martin after Martin Luther, the church reform. I mean, it could be possible. Then they say that his inspiration was Gandhi, but I know I talked to Dick Gregory's brother. He found out that Henry David Thoreau was the inspiration from Dr. King and not Gandhi. But you know, it is what it is. And y'all probably say, who the hell is Henry David Thoreau? He's a literary figure from the 19th century. He lived up in the New England area. Uh, he was part of this transcendentalist movement. Him and Ralph Waldo Emerson. They were abolitionists and they both believe in nonviolence. So that's somebody you should look up. But anyway, Billie Holiday. It is said that when Billie Holiday was laying handcuffed to her deathbed, she was arrested for possession of narcotics. She had $750 stuck in her vagina. Her last words were codeine and bourbon. Man, I'm a fan of Billie Holiday, man. I remember in college, I used to listen to my Billie Holiday CDs on repeat when I went to sleep, and I woke up sad as a motherfucker in the morning. I had to stop doing that. I used to look, what the fuck wrong with me? Is it the time of the month? Why? Because I was listening to Billie Holiday music when I was going to sleep. And you know, you gotta be careful. It's like when you fall asleep with the TV on, because you're dealing with vibrations and frequencies and stuff like that. You gotta be careful what comes in your space, man. It's like vampires. Like you see in the movies, the only way a vampire could come in your home is if you invite the vampire in. It's like we be inviting these things in. And you know, Billie Holiday was in a way, man. Billie Holiday was a fascinating sister because it's strange when she's one of those mythological figures to me because you know, Baltimore said she was born there. Philadelphia said she was born there. And they both could be right. Baltimore claims Billie Holiday is on. Then Philly said, hey, no, she's ours. So how can she be born in two places at one time? And the thing about Billie Holiday is that Quincy Jones said that in his recent interviews, or one of them, that a good singer can make a bad song sound good. But Billie Holiday, she would actually take the worst songs and make them to classics. Like the writers at Tin Pan Alley would actually give her like some shitty song and she turned it into a hit. She had a gift. She couldn't read music, but if you listen to Billie Holiday, she phrased her singing, her phrasing was like a horn player. So she understood that her father was a guitar player for Fletcher Henderson's band. See, Fletcher Henderson, I'm saying black people, man, we don't understand our God status. Fletcher Henderson was doing stuff with his orchestra in the 20s that it took the rest of the country almost 20 years to catch up with Fletcher Henderson. Like Benny Goodman, they call him the so-called king of swing, which is bullshit. Because you know how white folks put up their people. Now, Benny Goodman was an excellent musician, but he learned how to play his clarinet from the masters from New Orleans. It was a cat named Jenny Noon from New Orleans that taught, I believe, Benny Goodman in Chicago. You had Johnny Dodds from New Orleans, who was a hell of a clarinet blues player. You had some phenomenal clarinet players, but when you think about clarinet players in jazz, you don't think about the black masters from New Orleans, or even the Sidney Bechet, who was the lead by himself, because he actually made a soprano saxophone popular in jazz. Because it took Coltrane decades later to provide a distinctive voice that was different from Sidney Bechet's voice on soprano saxophone. Sidney Bechet, he trained Johnny Hodges, Rabbit, who was in Duke Ellington's band. Johnny Hodges was known as a Rabbit because he's a slick motherfucker. He like a rabbit, look kind of sleepy, but he started playing that damn alto sax. Your woman will be throwing her panties on the stage for Johnny Hodges. That motherfucker had that distinctive honey love alto sax sound. You understand? Listen to Duke Ellington. Listen to Johnny Hodges on Prelude to a Kiss. Nobody sounded like that. But Sidney Bechet taught him because Sidney Bechet was dating his sister. Johnny Hodges was from Massachusetts. He wasn't from New Orleans or South Carolina or Memphis. He was from up south. He wasn't from down south. But man, Johnny Hodges was incredible. But Sidney Bechet, like, yeah, Benny Goodman learned from black people how to play clarinet. Just like Artie Shaw, who's from Baltimore, I believe. But when you think about jazz clarinet, those the two white folks, but all these black legends be forgot about. Everything's whitewashed. But Billie Holiday had a unique voice. She used her voice like a horn player would use their saxophone or trumpet. Brilliant singer, brilliant, artist. She died at 44. She died way too young. She was real close to Maya Angelou. She predicted that Maya Angelou would be famous for something besides singing because Maya Angelou did everything. She danced, she sang, she even directed a movie. The movie, and she wrote scripts for movies, but she did a movie before she did Down in the Delta. She did a movie with her sister, that Redbone. I forgot her name, and she was my favorite. I mean, I just fell in love with her. She died young too. She died of some type of rare cancer, but she supposed to have been the lead in Claudine, and she recommended Diane Curl for Claudine, but that was going to be the thing that's going to take her to the next level. And she died young. She played the social worker in Willie Dynamite. Willie Dynamite. Yeah, I know about Willie Dynamite. No, I don't be looking at black exploitation movies, but she was the social worker in Willie Dynamite. She was a former prostitute turned social worker, but her name escaped me. But she was an interesting sister to me. But she actually played in a movie that the screenplay was written by Maya Angelou. It was a foreign film, and I'm sorry I'm all over the place, but this is about black people. And the people I'm mentioning, a lot of y'all never heard before anyway. This is about black love, and black love means knowledge itself. So I'm going to take the time. And I remember I saw Cassandra Wilson for my birthday 3 years ago in Nashville at the Nashville Symphony Orchestra. Oh, man, it's amazing. Cassandra Wilson's from Jackson, Mississippi. She's a beautiful sister. She's one of those women. She just aged well, and her voice is aged well along with her. And she did a album dedicated to Billie Holiday in the centennial celebration of Billie Holiday's birthday. She was born in 1915, so she had these three music giants that were born in 1915: Billie Holiday, Muddy Waters, and Old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra. They were celebrating their centennials in 2015, and so she did a whole album dedicated to Billie Holiday. And she did a song, I think it was original composition, that talked about how Billie Holiday was so heartbroken that she was not allowed to sing at Lester Young's funeral. And she wrote a song describing how she must have felt that she could not say goodbye to her old friend because Lester Young died just a few months before she died. They were real close. They were like brother and sister close. Some people believe they might have had a relationship. They could have, but they were so close. She nicknamed Lester Young the Prez as the president of all the saxophone players. Because Lester Young was a bad motherfucker, man. Lester Young was a cold brother. And he had a fascinating family background. He came from a family band. His brother was actually a drummer, and he became like an A&R man. He became a pioneering music industry executive. He just passed away several years ago from complications to a surgery. Like, what happened was he was healthy as a horse, but the surgeons left some medical tools inside of him, and he got infected. People don't understand. A lot of time when you do surgery, when you go to the hospital, you become sicker than you were before. Think about it. Hospitals is where they keep all the diseases at, the diseases. You go in there with all the sick folks and all the germs and stuff. So you thinking that a hospital will be a clean place is not as clean as you think it is. And so even surgery, they make all types of mistakes. That's why they help you sign those release forms and saying we're not responsible if you die while you are under anesthesia and all this shit. So they actually left some medical tools inside this brother and sold him up. And so he got infected and he died. So he could probably still be with us. He's been over 100 years old. But Lester Young, one of his sons, is one of the top educators in the state of New York. I don't remember his name at the top, but his last name is Young. But one of his sons is one of the top educators in New York State. He actually helped create, or used to help create, educational policy for New York State. So look him up. But Lester Young was real close to Billie Holiday. And there's a y'all talk about these Breakfast Clubs interviews. There's an interview that Lester Young did right before he died that's phenomenal. And I said phenomenal. It's so goddamn colorful. He speak like Quincy Jones be speaking. You know, like motherfucker is different for musicians. When a musician saying the word motherfucker, it's like art. Like Miles Davis said, motherfucker, motherfucker. It's a Midwest thing. I'm motherfucker, motherfucker. It's not, it's like how some people use the word nigga. But what I'm saying is, check out that interview that Les Young did. It's online, it's on YouTube. And this man is cursing up a storm. And basically, he's talking about when he was called in by Fletcher Henderson. And I want to say about Fletcher Henderson, like I said, he was doing things like 20 years before time. This cat was doing things in the 1920s, and it took almost to 1940s for other people to catch up to what he was doing. He used to arrange the music for Benny Goodman. It was, once again, behind every great white man is a black man that he stole from. Let me repeat that one more time. Behind every great white man is a black man that he stole from. So, yeah, Fletcher Henderson was paid by Benny Goodman, but he was already doing, he did that back in the 20s, what Benny Goodman made popular for the white America in the late 30s and early 40s. Fletcher Henderson was already the master of that in the early 20s. And I believe even Sun Ra played for the great Fletcher Henderson at one point. And I love about Sun Ra. And I want y'all to look up Sun Ra and listen to Sun Ra, not just listen to his music, but also listen to his interviews. Very fascinating stuff, very informative stuff. He considered jazz musicians angels. He called everybody an angel because they were messengers from the other world. They were sent here to enlighten us, to uplift us, to empower us. But there's a price, like Steve Coakley. You pay a price for wanting to share that light and make it shine bright for the humanity. You're gonna pay a price. Lester Young paid a price. Billie Holiday paid a price. Billie Holiday went through a lot of stuff. She went through a lot of sexual abuse early on. She was into abusive relationships with men. Somebody said a great point about Billie Holiday that knew her. She had, like they said, an asshole magnet, because she could walk into the room and there'd be a whole bunch of good guys and nice guys want to talk to her, but she's immediately attracted to the asshole. So she like it rough. She like it rough and raw. You know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but she came up hard. I come up hard, baby. I come up hard, baby. She came up hard. So she was like one of the fellas, but Billie Holiday was an interesting sister. Like at the end, she was skinny, but at the beginning, she like a Jill Scott. Like she like a young Jill Scott or something like that. It's fascinating. But she was, I mean, I always was attracted to her, but I stopped listening to her music to go to sleep to. Yeah, I was saying, Ron talking too goddamn much about all this shit. But anyway. I'm a fool to want you. I'm a fool to want you. But you're not a fool to watch me, though. Sorry about that, family. It's been having some issues. I guess that was my self-inflicted issue right there. The plug came out of my computer, so it went to sleep mode. But know that the best is yet to come. And I was talking about Seven Davis Jr. and his thing, the hit that was put out in his life by Harry, racist Hollywood executive. Well, some things changed and some things remained the same. But I heard a couple of things about Sammy Davis Jr. about actually how his eye got knocked out his head. You know, they said it was a car accident. I heard another story for some of the old timers, and like a friend of mine used to say, Mr. Hare, there's nobody dies of natural causes. All types of weird stuff that happened to you on your way to the grave in show business. and it is what it is. But I heard that his eye was knocked out by some gangsters because somebody got jealous he was messing around. So that's what I heard. But it is what it is. But I just want to read some of this stuff just to say that a lot of us are into this type of stuff. Because we live in this so-called weird, hypocritical, puritanical society where we try to repress our natural urges. Because sex is a natural thing, and vice versa. That's natural, right? But a lot of times we ashamed of even our bodies and stuff like that. They body shame you, they race shame you, all types of shame. And shame is normally connected to guilt, but it is what it is. Family. But that's said, Miss Davis Jr. Let's see if I can read one more. And then I'm gonna get into some other stuff. But as I said, this is the reason why stuff like this trends on social media, because people we nosy by nature. We like to know our lives for some reason. And then people like to judge people to make themselves feel better about, you know, people are people. Yeah, I want to see this about Quincy Jones and what he said about Marvin Gaye. Let me see. I can find it. But yes, family, if you are enjoying these podcasts, like I said, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties that have happened recently. But if you are enjoying these things and you like to support it, if this is benefiting you at all, please feel free. Like you do the super chat, right now to donate, or you could donate. All the stuff is down in the subscription box in this video. You could donation at PayPal, or you could go to our Patreon account, a subscriber and a supporter, a patron. Artivist art, all that good stuff is loading box. But it's about respond to it or whatever you want to do with it. Not use it, not important, whatever. But it said that Marvin Gaye married Berry Gordy's sister, Anna Gordy. Anna Gordy was older and had issues with conceiving a child. So Marvin with her niece, Denise, at age 17. Anna album about his failed marriage. And yet Anna Gordy, excuse me, was significantly old at the time. So it was surprised me. Marvin Gaye meeting his last wife when she was school with him courting or messing around with this younger lady. And it's not important really in the bigger scheme of life, but I'm just trying to let y'all understand the culture of that time. It's like, people got mad at Elijah Muhammad for having these younger women having babies by him. But Muhammad Ali, he met his last wife when she was like 6 years old. And I'm not saying he was like, oh, I'm gonna marry her when she was, when he saw her at 6 years old, whatever. There's pictures of Muhammad Ali with his last wife when she was a little kid. And she ended up being this last wife when she got a little bit more grown up. So is that weird? I mean, did it sound like, damn, he's kind of like, I mean, different time. I got a great uncle. He founded and started the oldest black-owned newspaper in South Carolina, and the Charleston Chronicle. And he met my aunt Livia when she was 14. He was 28. She got married. And when she's from Brooklyn, he's from Kansas City, but he was in the Navy. When he was 28, he met and married my aunt Olivia at 14, and they're still together. Been together for decades, had children and everything. But he's in his 90s and she's still up, she getting up there. Like there's a 14-year age gap. And like even with my mother's mom, my grandma, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, He was born in 1923, and my maternal grandmother was born in 1936. And she actually eloped. She eloped with him from Mississippi. She escaped the plantation and to come to Memphis for my grandfather, and the rest is history. But it's different times. I don't try to judge people based on our standards, because it was a different time, different mores. But it's interesting, and when you compare and contrast the times and the past and the present with the Me Too movement and the Times Up movement. But like I said, my uncle married his wife, and still wife when she was 14. He was 28. So like even with Bobby Womack with Barbara Cook, I mean, that wasn't out of the ordinary for people to marry like that. I mean, I talked about Frank Sinatra was going to marry Humphrey Bogart's wife, his widow, Lauren Bacall, because he was real close to Humphrey Bogart, So also it said, Ronald Isley, Mr. Big from the Isley brothers, was cashing royalty checks that belonged to his dead brother O'Kelly Isley. Ronald evaded the IRS by demanding cash payments for millions of dollars in performance fees he earned between 1997 and 2002. He also put homes and a yacht in the name of his ex-wife. And hell no, what's that? Hell has no fury like a woman scorned. When a woman's fed up, not a lot, oh la. But anyway, Mr. Big got caught up. But it's like when I was reading that, I'm thinking about Donald Trump. The game is rigged, because Donald Trump is a cat. He filed for bankruptcy on multiple occasions, but it wasn't personal bankruptcies for his businesses. And like he said, his family never wanted for anything. They never went broke. And like I'm trying to tell people, it's all about family with them. Donald Trump, his children don't work for nobody else. They work for the family. It's like the mob. They work for the family. It's family loyalty. We could compare and contrast that with black people. A lot of times we just kick our kids out there. You're on your own. I'm on my own. I'm on my own. It's like that, like Patti LaBelle or something. You're on your own without no type of support network. I told you about the Saudi that came over here as a foreign student and lived with the black family, and he disappeared on them for 3 days. They were trying to call the police. I would have called Homeland Security on his ass, because 9/11 and stuff. But but they were trying to, and he was gone for 3 days. Come to find out, he got a brand new car from the Saudi Arabia organization that supports newcomers to America. Living in America. Think about that, black folk. Who can black Americans go to when they have a grievance? You can't even say the NAACP no more. You go to them if you want to be on TV and dance with Anthony Anderson, for Hollywood purposes. But what organization can black folks turn to? Who lobbies for black folks in Congress? What is a lobbyist on K Street doing for black Americans? So who speaks for black Americans? I mean, I'm asking you this. I'm joking. I'm looking at black people. I mean, we about to spend a whole bunch of money this weekend on this Black Panther thing. People are got costume parties. They have rented out theaters and everything. But who speaks and who cares about black people, black American needs? Not just black people. It's not just good to say, well, they black, but you got black people come all over the place. I remember reading the autobiography of Dizzy Gillespie. I think y'all should read the autobiography of Dizzy Gillespie, the great jazz trumpet player and one of the founding fathers of modern jazz, bebop. He wrote his autobiography. I think it was called "To Be or Not Bop" or something like that. Something like that, along those lines. But he was talking about how a lot of black Americans became Muslim, or they adopted the Islamic faith, was because when they went down south, they found out that they were treated better. Some of the musicians did. They became Muslims or became part of Islam because they found out they were treated better by the Southerners and by the system of Jim Crow, because Jim Crow made them an exception because they thought they were foreigners. If they thought you was a foreign-born black, they treat you differently from American blacks. This is what he talked about in his book. And I think Dizzy was of the Benai faith. And you can look at the Benai people. I think it's called Benai, B apostrophe N A I, something like that. That's what's his religion. And I think, they believe something to the fact that we are messengers of humanity. All this stuff. Dizzy was very spiritual like that. But he talks about that in his book, how a lot of Black American musicians adopted the Islamic faith to sidestep racism, to sidestep homegrown racism back in the day. So, it's okay to be any type of Black, but a Black American, because there's nobody that speaks for you, Black America. There is no government that you could turn to. There is nobody that empathizes and sympathizes and has compassion for us. Like Richard Pryor said, there's no justice. It's just us. So, I mean, it is what it is. So let me just go. I hope that this stuff is coming out right. Y'all let me know. Let me read these chats. Let me read the chats. See, y'all saying we got about. I might have to go a little bit over anyway because of technical difficulties and starting late, but that's no problem. But I don't think everybody will be faithful. Trying to see. Wow, computer's acting slow. See what's next. But I think the next podcast we'll do would be after I see the Black Panther movie. I'm gonna be on the road. Oh, man. I just live an interesting life. Oh, got to keep it moving. Got to keep it moving. I'm always on the go. Yeah, but I want to thank everybody for being patient. It was a process, but like I said, it's important to support the platforms that believe in you, brought to you from people that look like you. I'm definitely a Black person, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. I'm a color in the Crayola box, but really, I'm a human being. I'm a part of humanity. Hue, Hue, manatee. I know this. Okay, everything good. Yeah, Valentine's Day. A lot of interesting things going on. But you gotta have a love of self. People are looking for love on the outside. But everything you need is on the inside of you. Because really, once you open up those insides, I ain't talking about cut yourself up physically. Once you open up those insides and really find out what's inside of you, and you can share that with the world, you can amplify what you need on the outside from coming from the inside. Does that make any sense? You already got it in you. You already got it in you. You just need to know how to amplify it and connect it with the outside. Because really, your reality is based on what you think about yourself. Because you're projecting things out there to manifest a reality that either rejects you or accepts you. You know what I'm saying? Like it's vibrations and frequencies and stuff like that. Your mind is so powerful. And you could just make really, I think the Vatican came out recently. The Pope says people need to slow down and meditate in silence or something like that recently. And it does work for me to be able to slow it down and just take it nice and easy. I ain't saying this procrastination. I'm not talking about procrastination. I'm talking about just slow it down. Everything's moving high speed and everything's going to crash. That's the end result, right? So why are we in such a hurry to get into a car wreck? It's like on the road, people driving crazy, not paying attention, people doing everything but paying attention to the road and the people around them. You know what I'm saying? People texting, they Snapchatting, they Instagramming while they driving, putting on makeup, insurance. My insurance went up because of other people's accidents, supposedly. People car accidents have affected my car insurance than what the agent told me anyway, And maybe some truth to that. I've been seeing a lot of accidents recently But you gotta wonder, how could some of those been avoided if people was just paying attention or just slow it down? What's the rush? You know what I'm saying? God is in everything. The universe has a plan, and you got to learn how to listen and observe and figure out what that plan is and how it works for you. Because there's a plan for you if you allow it to happen, but you just got to listen sometimes. And sometimes I find myself even wake up in the morning and thanking God and that I'm alive and I still got a chance to do some good. I just sit up and just sit for 10 minutes and things start coming to you, man. It's like, where did I put that thing? And then something would say, you put it in your pants. It's still in your pants. Look on the pants that you had on. Go on the floor. I put my pants on the floor and look in that pocket on the left. I mean, I heard a voice tell me that. I know you think that's crazy. Then the voice was correct. It's like, hell, the voice knew that's going to be on the left pocket on the front part of my pants. Wow. I'm not like Mike Pence. I'm not saying I'm Mike Pence that I talk to Jesus and Jesus give me answers. I ain't saying that. I'm just saying that there's a lot to being us that a lot of us are not aware of. And that's why I've been telling people lately, have a love affair with yourself. Figure out who you are first. Because it's like me, myself, and I. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, me, myself, and I. There's levels to you. There's levels to you. You might be keeping more secrets than Illuminati inside of you. You don't even know you. You might be more secretive than Illuminati because you don't even know who you are. You know what I'm saying? So celebrate you sometimes. Get a chance to know you. Give yourself a chance. Like what I've been doing this year, I have been lessening my stress load. I got a lot of stuff on me, and people want to make demands on my time. And like your time is one of the most valuable investments you have. And people say things, and sometimes people say mean or hurtful things. They don't mean no harm by it, but they don't know what it is to live your life or to walk in your shoes. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody pays dues on some levels, but people don't know the things I actually go through to do the things I want. But I'm very passionate. I love my people. I'm very passionate about serving people. But people tend to want to take advantage. No matter what you give, it's never enough. No matter how you try to raise the standards, you can never be good enough for some people, and that's okay because some things are not meant for all people. It's just like all gifts are not meant for all people. You might be a gift to somebody else and a burden to somebody else, or something else to somebody else. It doesn't make a difference. Just be good to yourself. Be kind. Be loving towards yourself. Be patient. Be understanding with yourself. Because if you can't do that for yourself, how can you be patient, understanding, love, kind, generous with anybody else, really and sincerely? There's a lot of levels to you. You got more secrets than Illuminati inside of you. You got more secrets than the Vatican inside of you. If you never get a chance to spend time with yourself, like in nature, I talked about the transcendentalists, the Henry David Thoreaus and Ralph Waldo Emerson. These were some deep thinkers, but they had to get away from all the stresses and demands of everyday living in the city, and they came out to nature and they had to meditate and reflect and shit. You can't do a lot of things if you don't meditate and reflect. You can't have a master plan if you can't relax your mastermind and let it work and let it understand itself. How can you have an understanding with other people if you don't have an understanding with yourself? Because really, like I said, your reality is just a projection of what's on the inside of you. The laws of attraction, you don't want to create the atmosphere that can either be conducive to your success or conducive to your demise. You create the atmosphere. You attract whatever you attract, you know? Because I try to keep a spirit uh and some levels of honesty and transparency this year. I'm trying to keep it where I like, this is where I'm coming from. I don't want no misunderstandings. I'm coming from a place of peace and clarity. Things happen. Some things I can't control. A lot of things are out of my control. Let you, but I do control how I respond. I do have a say in how I respond to things. You have a say. We all have a say. We gotta learn who we are in order to understand and make the best decisions that will be conducive to not only our survival but also our success. So let me see. Let me read the chats. And thank you all for being patient. I'm sorry, like I said, for the tech difficulties that have arisen. Thank you, Sister Stephanie Gerald. We all BTV. Yeah, we in the house. Looking forward to hearing my thoughts on the Black Panther movie, especially the hidden messages. Much love for New Orleans, Brother Ron. Thank you, Wendy Can or Wendy Con. Sorry about that. Mardi Gras Land. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the Black Panther movie. I heard some things. I heard Chadwick Boseman on the Breakfast Club, and give shout outs to that. He's a very humble guy, beautiful spirit to sing, beautiful soul, brother. It's like he really uh knows how to pick movie roles that benefits his talents, that really showcase his talent. I'm actually looking forward to checking out the Black Panther too and giving my thoughts. But like I said, it is amazing how much we allow white people to control our reality. Because the Black Panther was a creation of white men, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And so it's interesting how black folks take what was made by white people and we are attempting to make it our own. Sound like a Barack Obama project. Anne Marie Moulton, I hear you, sis. You say, I don't trust any black empowerment program that doesn't push the building of healthy black families. That's right. Because what people don't understand, probably the greatest success we had in the civil rights movement was not even the Voting Rights Act or no Selma. It was the Montgomery bus boycott, where you had the full participation of the black family in the Montgomery bus boycott. You had the black woman, man, and child. And another thing would be Project C Birmingham. We had the young people, the young children going to jail for their freedom. You know, Project C Birmingham happened in 1963. But I want to go back to the Montgomery bus boycott. I can never say too many good things about that. I can never say enough good things about the Montgomery bus boycott because of what it represents. It gave the chance for a black man to be a man and allow the safety of a black woman to be a full woman. And the reason why I say that because you had incidents of where black women were being sexually assaulted and worst case scenario raped by white men who was abusing by white men who were abusing their power. I'm talking about white men in authority like police officers, bus drivers, and taxi cab drivers. But for 381 straight days, you had full black solidarity. Nobody rode those buses, and it broke the system. That's how powerful black folks is. It's not about numbers, it's about strength. It's about unity, it's about solidarity. It's about organizing. It's about believing in yourself. It's about having your own moral code, knowing your moral compass. So I would advise a lot of us to restudy and to restudy and to restudy the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955-56, which lasted 381 straight days. Thank you, Lakeisha Rakin, for receiving my historic knowledge of Black art. I want to thank you all for listening tonight, for staying up late with me. Up all night. Shreveport is in the house. One love, Shreveport. No filter 318. That's the 318. That's Shreveport. Oh man, y'all in here. Oh, thank y'all for coming in. Bruh, let me see. Yeah, Trump is not the man in charge. Like Baba Dick Rigger talks about the shadow. He's the shadow. He's not the one pushing it. Yeah, our people are sick, man. I don't hate our people because I understand we are sick right now. We are sick people because we've been around. We got the Stockholm syndrome. amongst some other stuff. 0.1% was the Montgomery bus boycott truly a success? Yes and no. Yes, because it shows what could be done when black folks put aside their differences and work together for one goal. I say yes in that sense. It was, and no, because the point, why I say no is this. This is like the story that needs to be better known. And I repeated this story several times in different broadcasts and whatever. But it's the story about when the black folks was able to do what they did in Montgomery, the officials went to the black leaders of the movement and they wanted to sell the bus company. And S.B. Fuller, who was the wealthiest black person in America at that time, and look up S.B. Fuller, S.B., his initials, then Fuller. And A.G. Gaston was probably the wealthiest black person in Alabama. He lived in Birmingham. He owned hotels, a construction business, insurance companies, and funeral home. And they approached Dr. King and said, look, these white folks want to sell the bus company and we should buy it. And Dr. King said, no, he didn't trust it because Dr. King wasn't looking at the big picture. He was looking at integration. He was an integrationist. Dr. King was going to marry a white German woman who was a cafeteria worker at the theological seminary he was attending, I believe, in Pennsylvania. He was going to marry this German white cafeteria worker, and the family did not approve, not because she was necessarily white, but it's because she was below his social class standing. She was blue collar. Dr. King was upper middle class, so she wasn't on the same level from a social point as Dr. King, although she was a white woman. She's like basically poor white trash, you know what I'm saying? But Dr. King was gonna marry a white woman before he married Coretta. So Dr. King was an integrationist. I mean, they believe in staying in white-owned hotels to break the color barrier and all that stuff. So he was not thinking black business back then. But in his last speech in Memphis at Mason Temple, April 3rd, 1968, he was talking about supporting black businesses. But they were trying to do that back in 55 and 56, but he wasn't ready for it. And Dr. King was not necessarily a business leader. There were people, he was a great spiritual leader. He had an organization, he was for social justice. That does not make him an expert on how to run a business. You understand? So Dr. King, I believe, knew that he was short-sighted in that regard. And he came around, but he was not allowed to live out his full potential because an assassin bullet cut him down in Memphis. You said you can't be pro-black and love white women. That's an oxymoron. But you know what? A lot of these pro-black cats got histories with white women. Like Harry Belafonte. As much stuff he did for the movement. James Farmer, the leader of CORE, white woman, James Foreman. He actually had children with a European socialite who was an activist in America. Malcolm X, when he was Detroit Red, was messing with the white meat. When he was Detroit Red, not when he was Malcolm X. Marcus Garvey had a white girl playmate he was infatuated with when he was growing up in Jamaica, and that didn't work out because the family ended up, can't play with niggers and all that stuff. So you got a history, a lot of black leaders. Frederick Douglass, come on. Frederick Douglass married a white woman that was about the same age as his daughter, his second wife. Farrah said Samuel S.B. Fuller was head of the Southside Chicago NAACP, president of the National Negro Business League, and a prominent black Republican, as well as a very wealthy black person. That's why he was a prominent black Republican. See, that goes to Dr. T.I.M. Howard, who was the wealthiest black man in Mississippi, but he was ran out of Mississippi because of his involvement in the movement, in particular with the Emmett Till situation. And he went up to Chicago, opened up a hospital up there. He actually was the first black leader to give money, to raise money for the widow of Malcolm X and his family. He raised money for Malcolm X's widow, Betty Shabazz. He also gave Jesse Jackson the seed money for Rainbow Push Coalition. And it was started in his home in a mansion on the south side of Chicago. That's Dr. T.I.M. Howard. So we gotta remember these ancestors who was also, they were about black excellence and social justice. You know, and they put their lives and livelihoods on the line. I believe SB Fuller made a lot of money off of white people with hair care products. But once they found out he was black, they boycotted him. I don't take my word for it because it's been a minute since I studied SB Fuller, but look him up. Okay. Pharaoh here. I don't know if it's a brother or sister. I believe I don't, but I'm saying Pharaoh said he was founder and president of the Fuller Products Company, publisher of the New York Age and Pittsburgh Courier. You said, bro. I believe brother Pharaoh. I think it's a brother. Maybe I'm gonna call you Pharaoh. Bro, what about the rich getting rich? Well, this is how the system set up. And you notice the people who try to call for the redistribution of wealth, you notice what happened to them. They all get killed or ostracized or in some type of way. You look at Dr. King, he was talking about share the wealth. He was talking about the poor people campaign. He was talking about giving people a living wage. What happened to Dr. King? Then you got 30 plus years earlier, you had U.S. Senator Huey Long talking about living wages and sharing the wealth and a 20-hour work week, and then got rid of him. Anybody that stands up to this system that's really about the serious business of revolution and change, they get dealt with. And a lot of times it's in a very public way so that other people become scared. But it's like Baba Dick Gregory and so many other wise people say, fear and God cannot exist in the same room. But people chose fear as their God. People have chosen fear as their God. So you worship what you worship. So if fear is your God, you're not going to really do anything about anything unless you just go into a costume party for a fictional character that talks about a revolution, and they live in this fantasy world called Wakanda that reminds you of Black Wall Street on steroids. I don't know. I mean, black folks ain't ready for revolution right now. Yeah, Kennedy was killed because he got involved in the business trying to control the currency, trying to get the government back to control of the currency. Yes, because the Federal Reserve is not federal; it's a private institution. Yes, Malcolm. They got rid of Malcolm. He was talking about redistribution of wealth and reparations and stuff like that. He wanted to bring the UN up on charges of, I mean, he wanted to bring the United States up on charges before the United Nations for human rights violations towards black people. Where is the political leadership that talks about the pain and suffering of black Americans, the descendants of slaves? The UN recently did a study like a year or two ago that says that American infrastructure is crumbling and that it owes the descendants of slaves reparations, and we don't take that shit seriously. I know we don't take it seriously because we take Black Panther movie more seriously and costume parties celebrating the fictional Black Panther movie more seriously than we do our own reparations and liberation and education and self-determination. We're not ready for no revolution. Okay, workers' rights being argued in Supreme Court this month, but the problem with the workers is that they keep on fighting for 15. There's no need to fight for 15 when they owe you 30. There's no need to fight for $15 when they owe you $30. They basically forfeiting their inheritance. It's like with the garbage workers or sanitation workers. They got killed. They allowed Dr. King to get killed in Memphis, and they still don't have the rights and stuff they were fighting for 50 years later. You still got one dude, he's still working as a sanitation worker. He was a sanitation worker 50 years ago, and he's still working as a sanitation worker. He was involved in the sanitation worker strikes, and he is still working as sanitation workers, and the sanitation workers still don't got the deal they were trying to get 50 years ago. And Dr. King was killed. How in the hell are you going to waste a death like that? Fear and God cannot exist in the same room. They chose fear as their God. That's all I can say. It's bullshit, man. We got no leadership, man. That's why I'm telling y'all, go to the mailman theory. I mean, I don't have time for Auntie. You know who she is, Auntie, spilling tea and talking loud, ain't saying a damn thing. You know, black folks can't afford to live in no goddamn California unless you play for the NBA. Can't afford to visit California if you black. Oh my God. Okay, you says Lakeisha, but they are arguing right to work. There's no right to work when no jobs exist. You know what I'm saying? Like they They're phasing out dignity, man. Like right now, people should be arguing just for to have a living wage because a lot of these jobs are being phased out or becoming obsolete because of automation. Like they're killing people to come over here. There's no jobs. And the people that suffer the most are the people that have been here the longest, Black Americans, the descendants of slaves. It was Black folks here before there was a republic here. We've been here longer than some of the people that call themselves the elites. We've been here longer. We descended from people that have been here longer than the so-called 1%. Whatever you love, it can become your God. Whatever you love or whatever you worship. You know, God is an interesting concept. We all got God in us, man. Y'all fair. You know, you if you were made in God's image, you are God. If you God's children, you are descended from God. Thank you, St. Louis. Got a lot of love for St. Louis, one of my favorite places on the planet. I went to school at WashU, St. Louis, Missouri. You can find me in St. Louis. You can find gunplay all over America because, like Dr. King said, the greatest purveyor of violence on the planet, my own government. What happened in Florida on St. Valentine's Day? That's the new St. Valentine's Day massacre. Used to be America's #1 safest city. You could never be safe when the enemy is always from within. Let me reread that Lincoln quote, what Abraham Lincoln said about America. America is always the enemy from within. I ain't gonna find it right now. But statement, yeah, this is fast. Let me go through, get y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. I'm gonna run over a little because I had some technical difficulties and I started 10 minutes late, so I'll be going for at least 20 more minutes. So I'm going to. Okay, oxygen. I'm going back in the comments. Peace from Miss Baba Dick Gregory. Now, who's going to give us our insight and break the news codes and propaganda? Well, the person that looks back at you in the mirror, that's your job. Because the job of Dick Gregory, he was a genius. Because I remember we had conversations. We would have conversations. He talk about how he was more popular now than he was even in his heyday because of the internet. You know, the news and information travel faster than ever before. So I don't believe Dick Gregory ever turned down an interview from even a dog or a cat. You know what I'm saying? So what he did was he made sure that his message would be amplified for generations by utilizing the new technology. So y'all always got a chance to go back on this online as long as we still have this internet, as long as we could keep it, you know, in the hands of the people. You can always access the information and you know, and the way he thought about things or what he thought about things. And my thing is, we all got a little bit of Dick Gregory in us, and your job is to find out who you are. This is what I'm saying with people. Dick had to find out who he was. He had to find out who he was. He went through a lot of struggle. You know, all Black people in our own way. Everybody, not just Black people, but everybody got a struggle story. I don't care how privileged you think you are and how well off you think you are. Everybody has some type of struggle story because this is how humanity is all connected. We are connected through struggle. We actually need each other. A lot of us don't know that, and that's the problem. That's why we have these conflicts, because we don't understand how we all need each other. We feed off each other, but at the same time, if the sick is feeding off the sick, you have nothing but sick people. Therein lies a problem. We can never get better until we acknowledge that we're passing around an illness, a sickness, and it starts with the self. Got to heal thyself first. You want to heal other people, because by you healing yourself first, you set an example, you set a tone for other people to follow. Not necessarily for people to be your followers, but to follow, to learn from. It's like when Malcolm X transformed from being Detroit Red to Malcolm X, the El Hajj El Malik Shabazz. He did several reinventions, but you know, every time he did that, he learned from the missteps he took, and he had the humility enough to recognize when he was wrong, apologize, and then correct himself after having the right information available to do so. That takes a lot of commitment, discipline, honesty, and courage. And we all can have that if we choose to be that, but there is a price to pay for that type of sincerity, honesty, and transparency. So are you willing to pay that price, or did you want to be a part of the system? Because we did not come here to be a part of the system. We all came here to change things, but along the way, we all made choices and compromises. And therein why you have the situation we have now in the world today, in particular in our own so-called beloved community. And I don't know if you understand anything I said, but I don't know. Sometimes I'll be on autopilot, and it's funny the things I end up saying, but I'm in the spirit. Yeah, it's hookworms in Alabama. When you got people got hookworms in Alabama and dirty water in Flint, Michigan. Yet y'all talking about dreamers and DACA, but black folks got enough problems, and people don't understand. When I say we the universal people, we connect all people. That means if you take care of black folks' problems, that is the blueprint for taking care of everybody else's problems. Just like the civil rights movement was the blueprint for everybody else to get ahead. The whites, the gays, I mean the white females, feminists, the gays, even the undocumented workers, the dreamers. Everybody have used the blueprints of the blood, sweat, tears, sacrifices of Black Americans, and you have utilized their blueprint to get ahead, to get their piece of a ever shrinking American pie. And Black folks are still left with just the crumbs. And that really comes from lack of vision at so many different levels. I'm in a city known as Memphis. Memphis is the distribution hub of the country, but it's also known as one of America's poorest, biggest cities. Just in 50, 60 years ago, Memphis was ahead or around the same league as Atlanta, a Dallas, a Nashville. Memphis was more striving and more thriving than Nashville was. Now look at Nashville; they the most populated city in Tennessee, and they're constantly growing and booming. They had to put a building restriction up recently, so not allowed to build no more new buildings for a while. That's how fast they're growing. But they have created infrastructure that's conducive to a certain quality of living, because wherever you have research and educational facilities of the highest order, you can find thriving economies. When you have an educated populace, the population know how to produce opportunities and set themselves in a situation where they not only thrive, but their people around them thrive. Like what black people is, when we get a little piece of the pie, we tend to run away from each other. We run away from our shadow and our reflection in the mirror, because the problem is that we don't understand this is about group politics. America, this system is set up for group economics. You cannot succeed and be able to sustain that for generations without some help or support. You cannot be an independently wealthy black person and expect to keep that wealth for a generation or two longer, because you got no backup, you got no support system, you got no protection. You know, it's like you look at the old gangster movies and them mobsters be shaking down the local small businesses in their neighborhoods. They say, well, you gotta pay for protection. You know, you gotta pay us for protection. You know what I mean? By the beam. We your selling partners. But what if Black Rosewood or Black Wall Street or Wilmington 1898? What if the black folks had some protection? I mean, you got to have your own military. You got to have your own protection. You got to have people that are willing to fight and die for your interests, backing you up. But not just protection in terms that's exploiting you and undermining your business. But we don't understand. Look at Wakanda. Y'all crazy about this fictional place called Wakanda. Wakanda can exist like that because they study and practice military science. They understand they must protect their interests by any means necessary. That means they might be not only just to live and go to church and pray, but be willing to die for what they want to protect and to be able to protect their families. If you're not willing to put yourself on the line for something that you want, you're not fit to live. Dr. King said, if a man is not willing to die for anything, he isn't fit to live. So how can you explain why you are on your knees, you know what I'm saying, every Sunday, Wednesday, whatever, you on your knees to the light bill, man. You on your knees to the IRS, man. But yet, I mean, how can you build a generational wealth thing if you always begging, if you are afraid to take and to protect. Because everybody who made it in America and make it at the highest levels, they didn't just ask or beg, they took. They rob, they steal, they kill. Now, I'm not saying people do that, but understand, because like when people tell me, when I hear people say, man, why they don't teach this stuff in schools? Because nigga ain't no school. It's not about school. That is not a place of learning. Malcolm X, I'm gonna keep on repeating this. My favorite Malcolm X quote: only a fool will let their enemies be the primary educators of their children. So you send your kids to death camps, don't even know it. You talking about some school to prison pipeline. How the hell you gonna send your kid to a place where leads them to be in prison or to be unemployed for the rest of their lives, or to be or be a useless eater? How can you live with yourself at a conscious level? You so-called church going, praying to, I mean, whatever. I mean, how can you live with yourself knowing that you're setting up your kids and your future seeds and generations for failure? That is not the answer. Donald Trump did not kick this kid. He did not kick his kid out his mansions and palatial estates or Trump Tower at 18 and say, go work for yourself, you on your own. He has set his, not only has he set up his kids, he is setting up his family for generations. That's the nature of the business, man. Y'all thinking, man, that man horrible. I said, that's the nature of the beast. Y'all the ones talking about it's okay to vote for the lesser evil. The hell you talking about? You recognize the system is evil, and yet you still want to participate in the system. You want to participate in a system that you have recognized that is evil. They cannot even produce a candidate that is worthy of righteousness and justice. Jesus could not win in these conditions, and that's why he was crucified. If you believe that, if you believe in Jesus stuff, I'm not here to talk about nobody religious beliefs, but I'm saying y'all okay with living with lesser evil. You should want full social justice. How can you be okay with living with lesser evil when your kids are being gunned down by police and they're being gunned down in the neighborhoods by guns that were put in the neighborhoods by design, and they're being done in by drugs that they did not bring into the country? How can you live with yourself with this bullshit? This is bullshit. This is crazy. Justifying this and that. Then got the dirt to talk about some agents. Y'all know good goddamn well who killed Dr. King, but y'all still pay taxes to the IRS. I'm just saying, do what you want to do. No, we don't know nothing. We just want to be ignorant and claim we students are the righteous ones. Okay. Sharon Daniel said, I'm not a big water drinker, but I hear his voice in my subconscious saying, drink water, sleep and walk with a limp if you have to. Well, you need we made up mostly of water. And like Dick said, the things that's killing people really are the, byproducts of certain things: not getting enough exercise, not getting enough sleep, and not getting enough water. Those three things can lead to other health issues. Movement is the key to life. You got to move some type of way. I remember when the Iraqi war, the second one, started in 2003, and the news reporter from MSNBC died of a pulmonary embolism, like basically a blood clot in his leg or something. And the reason why that happened, from my understanding, was because he was embedded with the troops in the tank. And sometimes you got to sit down. He be in those tanks for hours on end in the same position for hours. That's not a good thing. It's like with Heavy D, he died of a pulmonary embolism, but he did some dancing over there. He performed over in England, then came back on a plane. They found him dead in L.A. in his home. It's a lot of things. I mean, it's like, when y'all talking about Baba Dick Gregory, was a murder conspiracy. Man, the man was 84 going on 85 years old, flying nonstop. I mean, Baba Dick Gregory was doing 200 plus shows a year. But the thing about it was, he would just fly into a place, won't be able to go to his hotel directly, just getting off the airplane, being rushed to the performance venue, not having time to just relax and catch his breath and going on stage. He was doing that for 200 times plus a year. And he's 84, 85 years old. So what really helped him live long enough to do those things, because he did believe in health conscious awareness. Imagine if Dick Gregory just took it easy as an 80-something-year-old man. He probably could be living right now, could have lived to almost over 100 years old, probably. Because he really was advocating for health, but he sacrificed his life to help his people. He was a revolutionary suicide because he knew he damaged his body doing humanitarian work, like running across the country, doing extreme fasting. You know, the thing about life is, as you learn, if you smart, if you got some wisdom, learn how to do shit in moderation. It's not always, but when you're doing shit in the extreme, things tend to happen, faster, and you got to pay a price for that. So, I want to say I miss Bob McGregor, but I don't miss him because he's everywhere. I see him, I hear him everywhere. His spirit is all around, man. He didn't die. Can't kill energy. He fasted for the world. He fasted for the universe. He was very he was a holy man. He was very spiritual. When you were in his presence, you felt that. The proud black woman. I hear you, Sister Wendy Khan. Shaka Khan. I feel for you because I love you. I think about Shaka Khan when I said Wendy Khan. This is Bentica Lucara, land fertile and rich, soil and body of water. Money will not rectify a damn thing. It go back to like when you said that, I'm thinking about Marcus Garvey. When he basically, to paraphrase Marcus Garvey, he said that modern life will be the death of the Negro. All this so-called modernity will be the death of the Negro. And modern life has screwed over black people. Because you even look at it, we are some people. You got folks living up north in Boston, New York. Black folks being so depressed because they got to get enough vitamin D3. Especially if you're a black person living in Alaska, where it's dark for 6 months out the year, you need some vitamin D3. We the sun people. We need vitamin D3. So take you some vitamin D3. And Baba Dick Gregory said, one of the ways to prevent strokes or heart attacks, he said on my show, taking vitamin D3 and L-arginine. Just take those every day. It can help prevent strokes and heart attacks. They did studies on it. And you can find L-arginine in watermelon. We ashamed to eat watermelon, but watermelon can give you life. And it's also like a natural Viagra. Just look up watermelon, the benefits of watermelon. Y'all afraid to eat. Y'all shame. Y'all let these white folks think they gods. White folks are your children. Black folks, we the original parents of civilization. They know that. Y'all arguing with these kids about how Queen Nefertiti looked. They know Queen Nefertiti was a black African. They found the bones and shit of Cleopatra's sister. Like these British archaeologists and forensic scientists some years ago. It's a documentary I was looking at. I don't know what Discovery Channel or National Geographic, one of those, Smithsonian channels, whatever. They found the remains of Cleopatra's sister in Turkey. And I ain't gonna never forget the look on the white woman's face and how her voice sounded. This British woman. She said, yeah, Cleopatra's sister was an African. And when I mean African, she was like black African. She said like she was disappointed. She was black African. So that means Cleopatra was a black woman, right? They've been saying all this time, y'all believe that Cleopatra like Elizabeth Taylor, but she actually looked more like, looked like a sister. Maybe she was like Meghan Markle, a little bit mixed. I don't know. She's from the House of Ptolemy. But y'all can look at all this stuff, but it don't make a difference. That's ancient news. It's like Hannibal. Everybody know really that Hannibal was an African. He was black. He was no white person. He was like the original founder of the Universal Circus. He used some elephants across the Alps. This cat used elephants across the Alps, almost defeated the Roman Empire. That's black folks genius, boy. That's black folks genius. But okay, I'm good. A little bit more longer. Like I said, if y'all benefited from the podcast, I hope everything is coming out better. I know we had some technical difficulties. I hope everything's coming out a little bit better. I hope you can understand what I'm saying. Do you understand the words that come out my mouth? It's 2 o'clock in the morning, Central Time. I got to go today and drive. Like I said, I'm going over. If y'all out there in Maryland and DC area, y'all should check out the phenomenal Dick Gregory exhibit that's taking place in Prince George's County, starting on Sunday, All Star Sunday, and ending on February 24th, I believe it's Saturday. Week-long celebration of Dick Gregory's life and legacy in Prince George's County. You can probably Google that up. I know his son Christian posted on it. It's all free and open to the public. His daughter, his beautiful and talented daughter, Sister Ayanna Gregory, is going to be performing her one-woman play that's dedicated to the civil rights movement and her father, the one and only Mr. Baba Dick Gregory. Sister, yeah, Wendy Khan, food is medicine. Yep, Farah, all the medicine you need is in food and plants. I hear you. But do you get them from Monsanto? Monsters Inc. I call Monsanto Monsters Inc. Genetically modified organisms. They were about athletes taking steroids, but what about the food that people eat every day or we think is food? I agree with you, Sister Mantika. Love the sun, love water, watermelon too. We are ashamed to change and live in unison with nature. We are not made to work doing useless trades, tending to our crop shelter community. And when you said that, I'm thinking about George Washington Carver, because I said he was the original Dr. Doolittle. This man actually talked to the plants and talked to animals in nature. And he knew something that we didn't know because he didn't really value money. Because had he valued money, it's quite possible that Tuskegee would have a bigger endowment than Harvard or all the Ivy Leagues put together. Because a lot of things he invented, the white corporations took advantage of and claimed them as their own. Because, like, I talked to people that work at Tuskegee who went to Tuskegee, and the legend has it that George Washington Carver would not cash his paychecks; he would just keep them in a drawer. So when he died, they found all these uncashed paychecks from his work at Tuskegee. And when somebody needed money, he would just direct them to the drawer, and they'll take a check and whatever. So this was a man who did not live for money. He loved life. He lived life. He found his passion. I mean, like I said, Henry Ford got his idea for the auto plant from having conversation with George Washington Carver. Was slavery a choice? Sister, who asked that question? Oxygen. What's your opinion of slavery was a choice for Black people in America? Man, yes and no. Yes and no. You always have options. No matter how bad things look, you always have an option. I know I talked to Sister Sarazad Ali a couple times, and we still dealing with that trauma from slavery. Like, black men and black women relationships are interesting. I know I listened to a show or a video earlier, and the guy named Jesse Lee Peterson, the one that Tariq calls the coon. I actually like Jesse Lee Peterson. I think he's interesting. I think he's smarter than people understand him to be. He's a master showman and promoter, and he plays that traditional trickster role. I don't think he's all coon. I don't think he's all bad, but he made a profound statement to me. He said that a lot of us, we hate our parents because we feel like they betrayed us. So you got black women and black men that hate each other from this slavery because you thought, well, why you didn't protect me? Like, why you didn't protect me? Like, the black woman's probably asking, why you didn't protect me? And the black men probably feeling, why you didn't believe me? Why you betrayed me? Some stuff like that. But we deal with a lot of stuff because even now, a lot of our issues come from allowing other people outside of our relationships to intervene, whether it be juvenile court, whether it be white feminists, whether it be all that stuff. Like, Fannie Lou Hamer spent most of her life on the plantation. She didn't realize she could vote until she was in her 40s, but she understood what the white feminist was really all about is about dividing the black family. The same thing you look at that movie Claudine, where I talk about Diane Curl and James Earl Jones. We have this proud black man. He got to find himself hiding like a runaway slave in a closet when the white woman social worker come around because Claudine can't help no black man in her house. And she's still gonna get, benefits from white daddy government. You know what I'm saying? So the black man is the in my this being we are some of the least respected people in society because our women do not find a need for us because they've been programmed not to find a need for us outside of certain things. But what I'm saying is, you look at other people cultures over here, all their women got to go through their men. Like even the ones that come over here, like I'm talking about the Middle Eastern people, they got to go through their men to get resources. Like the white feminist does not want to destroy white men per se, not the extreme ones. They just want to be validated and respected on certain levels and allowed access. Because you got to remember, the white man is the biggest pimp on the planet. I think Malcolm said the white man one time was he's the biggest rapist, he's the biggest pimp on the planet. He would not even allow his mother to vote until 1920. They hate their mamas. They have profound. I mean, you think about it. You go back to the Romans, where they would prefer to have sex with men, man on man. They use women just to produce babies, but women were an afterthought. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's kind of interesting that culture, but yet we want to be a part of that, and we lost our way. This is when Dr. King was talking about we integrated into a burning house because we had the moral high ground as the original people. We had the original man woman compact, the original man woman relationship. And we just need to heal. We need to have an honest dialogue. That's why I said we need to study the Montgomery bus boycott, because you had black men stepping up and protecting black women from rape and assault. So you talk about Reese Taylor happened in 1944 in Alabama when she was gang raped by six white men, after coming home from church, walking home with her friend and her son, and she had a newborn. I mean, like maybe a 3-year-old daughter at home, and this happened to her when she was 24 years old, and she lived to be almost 98. She died within 3 days of her 98th birthday. And can you imagine the shit she had to go through for decades? And I'm thinking about you compare and contrast Reese Taylor to the last Tupac rape victim, and she's posing in pictures with a so-called rapist mural. You know what I'm saying? Behind her. And well, I don't think Reese Taylor was going to pose for a picture with the white man who raped her because the whole community knew who the white men were. Some of the white men even confessed to raping her, but yet none of them were ever indicted for the crime. And they were well known by the community, both black and white. So imagine being Reese Taylor and living decades more with that type of hurt, with that type of trauma. And that's what a lot of black women have had to live with for decades. And they pass on that hurt and pain and trauma to their children. And we got to start looking at these things and healing these wounds properly. It's important. Yep, the Holy Trinity, black man, woman, and child. So y'all talking about tea tree oil. Sister Athena, I would be dead if I hadn't discovered tea tree oil because I'm antibiotic resistant and it kills everything, even antiviral. And you said you also have migraines and had to cut off all caffeine. And my doctor told me about acidic, and now I drink chamomile milk and no problem. I hope I said it right. Thank y'all for sharing this. I mean, I think it's important. This is about beloved community. This is why I say it's we all be. And I guess Abadiaziz Farah. I don't know, it's brother Pharaoh or sister Pharaoh. Dr. Sebi's African approach to disease relies on natural botanical remedies to cleanse and detoxify the body, bringing it back to a more alkaline state from the acidity that causes disease and pathology. Okay. Okay, man. It's like y'all very like conscious. Y'all woke folk right here. It's the woke folk zone. Call y'all the woke folk zone. It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. Y'all woke folks. So yeah, I think I'm about to wrap this up. But I want to thank you all for practicing black love. Thank everybody for contributing to this lovely conversation. And thanks to people who support by donating super chats, and also the people who support by donating to PayPal, becoming a patron, or just buying art. Uh, like I said, this is very encouraging for me, and I feel a lot of peace that I could share my peace of mind with you all, and that you all have been benefiting from this. Oh, brother Everard, always good to see you. He said, "Did I go to college?" Yeah, I went to college. I went to Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. You can find me in St. Louis. And I also got my MBA from Bethel University in Tennessee. My master's of business, but I would say I'm a master of none. Good show on Netflix. But anyway, yeah, this is fascinating, man. But just love yourselves. You fall in love with yourself. Find a way to learn yourself. Find a way to meditate. There's no right or wrong way to meditate. You just got to find out what works for you. I know there's a stereotypical thing about meditation that's out there, but let's find something where you can reconnect with your inner self and with nature. Find a way to do it in your time. Sister, I think you said my Cherokee fam has stories that don't let us forget that us lighter ones got to stay and be slaves while they saw the other leave on Trail of Tears. Have you heard about, where the descendants of freemen, of free blacks, the descendants of free blacks who were owned at once by the Cherokee Nation, they sued and got their reparations and citizenship recently last August? You should check into that. And really, that's the blueprint for a lot of us, because a lot of us have so-called Native American ancestry in us. But the Cherokee was considered one of the five civilizations, one of the five civilized tribes, excuse me. They were considered one of the five civilized tribes that actually fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War. As a matter of fact, the founder of the Klan, of the Ku Klux Klan, was their Brigadier General, Albert Pike, who was a Freemason, 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. And he's also the founder of the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK. He was the chief brigadier officer of the Cherokees when they fought for the Confederacy during the Civil War. So as they were marching on Trail of Tears, they had their slaves. Eating placentas. Yeah, I heard about that. I mean, look at the Pizzagate. Like I said, even in a lie, there's some truth, and there's some decoded stuff that needs to go on. And like I said, we're living in a time of zeitgeist where the spirit of the time is transparency and accountability. And now's the time, especially on the 50th anniversary of the passing, remembering the passing or the assassination, the crucifixion of Dr. King. Yeah, teach your children. You can't go wrong. Mothers are the teachers are the original teachers of the children, and black people are the original teachers of civilization. And eminent domain and no joke. That's nothing about this matrix. Y'all think y'all own stuff, but anytime the government could take your stuff away from you and just give you a market value and nothing more, then you don't own anything. That's why I said that Bundy Ranch thing is something else. They stood up against the government with guns and shit, and the government backed off, which is fascinating. So that you know, like I said, the Vietnam War was escalated by a false flag, and the Navy admiral in charge of the U.S. Navy during the Gulf of Tonkin incident, he is the father of the Doors rock and roll frontman Jim Morrison. I can't make this shit up. So a false flag led to the escalation of more American lives lost. And when you look at what happened in Florida and Las Vegas, y'all want to check out Operation Northwoods. Check out Operation Northwoods, because that's what the powers that be wanted JFK to do. They wanted him to allow U.S. intelligence to engineer uh, mass shootings in major cities at movie theaters and churches and schools, and to set off bombs in major American cities. That's Operation Northwoods. So remember when I said about Abraham Lincoln, when you talk about the enemy from within would destroy America, not the people from the outside, the enemy from within. Remember that the Taliban were good guys. They visited President Bush when he was governor of Texas back in 1999. Check out Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11. I think that was 99 or 2000. And they suppressed the opium trade in Afghanistan. 90% of the world's opium comes from Afghanistan. But once they got rid of the Taliban, the opium production levels increased. And guess who benefited from that? Who are the biggest drug traffickers on planet Earth? You figure it out on your own. We talked about it before. So it is what it is. It is an illusion. But you know what's real? Whatever you want to be real. So on that note, family, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. In the words of Greg Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing, but also support the We All Be movement, because we all be in it to win it. And thank y'all for being patient. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but you live and you learn. And that's how it is to be living in the moment and off the wall. So take care. God bless everybody. Good night. Love. And thank y'all for supporting. One love.